major safety improvements coming to an Oakland street nearly 2 years after the accident that killed a 4-year-old little girl.
I never thought we're gonna get here.
We'll hear from her loved ones celebrating the new bike lanes, even if the project doesn't erase the pain.
She should just be at home with us, and we should be going on multiple bike rides and having a fun, safe time.
Plus, we'll introduce you to some veterans working hard to fit in with civilian life.
Like being in a war zone, it ain't really normal for anybody.
The program that's helping them find connection and a fresh start.
You really need to connect with your community, and that's what it's really about.
And we'll hear from the owner of a classic Mercedes that was stolen and then found just before thieves shipped it off to the Netherlands.
It's just kind of miraculous that it happened.
What she did with the car right after getting it back, and the one important piece still missing. And later, the first real gut punch in what has been a dream first season for the Valkyries.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. A family's hard-fought push for safety changes on an Oakland street is moving forward. The city broke ground today on a new bike path next to Lake Merritt. The pathway is named after a 4-year-old little girl who was killed in a bicycle accident 2 years ago on that very street. The two-way bike lane covers a stretch of Lakeshore Avenue from East 18th Street to El Embarcadero. The pathway will be separated with concrete barriers from vehicle traffic. The little girl's family tells Daw Lin they believe the infrastructure improvement will help save lives.
Right now on Lakeshore Avenue, bicyclists ride in this area between parked cars and this white line. There's little protection from moving cars or from drivers who open their doors. Riders say the new bike lanes will get them out of harm's way. Breaking ground Friday afternoon on the Maya Correa Memorial Bikeway, named in honor of this little girl, Maya Correa, who died in a bike accident 2 years ago on Lakeshore Avenue.
It was a big price to pay to get where we're at right now.
Haide Ghaffari is Maya's grandmother. In August 2023, 4-year-old Maya was riding in a child's seat attached to the back of her dad's bike. When the driver of a parked car opened the door, Maya and her dad were thrown to the pavement. She died 6 days later. Since then, Haide and her family have been pushing for safer bike lanes along Lakeshore. But at one point, funding challenges nearly derailed the project.
We've been up and down, up and down, up and down. Today is an unbelievable day. I never thought we're gonna get here.
The 0.7-mile two-way bike path will look like this. It'll be protected from traffic by concrete barriers. And transportation officials say it won't eliminate any parking spots.
We can prevent those deaths, and I think that's the hardest part of this whole thing is, it's an accident, but it's a preventable death.
Bicyclists, young and old, say they'll feel safer once the project is done.
I have close calls frequently. The big problem are speeding motorists.
The cops can't be everywhere. Enforcement is not the answer for safety. Safety is about infrastructure. So when this project is done, we're going to have a protected bike lane that you can't get hit in.
Maya's 9-year-old brother Kai says he plans to be one of the first to ride in the new protected lanes.
It feels unreal because, it shouldn't be happening because she should still be here with us physically. So this shouldn't even be a thing at all. She should just be at home with us, and we should be going on multiple bike rides and having a fun, safe time.
Haide says her family's fight isn't over. She wants kids all over Oakland to be able to ride safely.
I have now become a board member of Valkyries Bay to continue my advocacy.
City officials say the Maya Correa Memorial Bikeway should be completed next summer, roughly a year from now.
Daw, thank you. Now, this story is a comeback rooted in resilience. Thousands are pouring into Gilroy Gardens this weekend for the 3-day Gilroy Garlic Festival. The fire-blazing pans at Gourmet Alley, they are back, drawing long lines for a taste of the famous garlic fries and more. It's the city's first garlic festival since the 2019 mass shooting and COVID pandemic. Each day's attendance is capped at 3,000 tickets, and the weekend is sold out. Even though the venue is smaller than it's been in previous years, Gilroy natives say they're just happy it is finally back.
When it ended, it was a stab in the heart for all of us, and We know that, life changes and adjusts and shifts, and that's what happened to us. But here we are picking up right where we left off. Maybe not location-wise, but in our hearts and our spirits, we are here. We love Gilroy, and we love the Garlic Festival.
Organizers say they're already planning for a possible expansion next year. On to a developing story we're following. The Union for Safeway workers and company leaders have until midnight to reach a deal. And if they don't, as many as 25,000 workers could walk off the job across Northern California. Union workers want higher wages, better health care, and improved working conditions. Safeway leaders say they're hopeful they can reach a deal, adding that the company respects associates' rights to engage in collective bargaining. Also, service and patient care workers held a one-day strike at UCSF Medical Center in San Francisco today. They're protesting layoffs to frontline staff at UCSF and UC San Diego. The union claims the hospital system broke the law by not giving notice of the 130 jobs being cut. UCSF Health says the layoffs are part of a broader effort to address serious financial challenges and that most of the eliminated positions are part-time or managerial levels. Bay Area nonprofit that's been helping veterans for 50 years is finding another way to assist. Organizers put together a resource fair in San Francisco this week, hoping to fill some gaps and strengthen bonds. Our Kenny Choi shows us how one veteran is looking to take another step forward in his journey back to civilian life.
Oh no. Playing video games like Gran Turismo is one way Brandon Teasley keeps his mind off his military life from years ago.
Like being in a war zone, it ain't really normal for anybody.
The 37-year-old enlisted in the Marines after high school and served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. He lives in permanent supportive housing in the Presidio, run by the nonprofit Swords to Plowshares. All residents have a history of housing insecurity and live with at least one disability.
Some people, it'll show up later on and stuff. They'll think they were good, at the time, but then, they'll get checked out and realize they actually have PTSD.
According to the National Health and Resilience in Veterans study, PTSD prevalence among U.S. veterans is 8%, suggesting more than 1.5 million have had PTSD at some point. It's in environments like the inaugural Veterans Connect event where Brandon's laughter and smile come to life. The goal? To bridge the gaps between community service providers and Bay Area veterans experiencing homelessness, poverty, unemployment, and isolation. On this day, he gets a free haircut from Zachary Wolf, a professional barber and volunteer who has had his own struggles.
Homelessness, I've gone through a bunch of family deaths, arrests, overdoses.
Wolf is also a veteran who got help from Swords to Plowshares while earning his license. He works full-time now and has been sober for 3 years.
Hear other people's stories, hear what other people are going through, and then kind of reflect on how good things really are.
You're struggling with an income, you're struggling with poverty. It's just an isolating situation. You really need to connect with your community, and that's what it's really about.
Swords to Plowshares Executive Director Tremesia Garner says on any given day, some 300 veterans they track still experience homelessness.
Resources in days like this are really also here for that community, because one of the things we can do is talk to folks about housing resources and connecting them to those resources, getting veterans off the streets.
Brandon has found housing, but is still looking for a job.
Sometimes it's kind of hard to get in the groove, and to even talk to civilian people is kind of hard sometimes.
It's the next box on his checklist, a chance he deserves after serving his country for so many years.
Swords to Plowshares was established in 1974, founded by 6 Vietnam-era veterans. It serves approximately 3,000 veterans a year and houses around 500 veterans across 6 housing sites. All right, on to Tesla. It says it is starting its robotaxi service in San Francisco this weekend. But the DMV says the company has not secured a permit for driverless testing. So in a possible workaround, Tesla says each robotaxi will have an employee in the driver's seat with full access to the brake and steering wheel. An internal memo yesterday viewed by Business Insider told staff about this launch. It said the timeline had been moved up and that some Tesla owners would receive an invitation to use this new service. The memo says the service area includes San Francisco, Marin County, much of the East Bay, and the Peninsula. Now, some industry analysts say Tesla actually moved up the launch after yesterday's quarterly earnings report showed slumping sales and revenue. Tesla stock dropped by 8% yesterday, but after the robotaxi news, stock jumped back up today by 3.5%. Still ahead here at 6, it's not just robotaxis taking over the streets. We'll check in with some of the thousands of runners getting ready to brave the twists and turns and hills of the San Francisco Marathon.
You'll see the culture, you see the differences in each neighborhood that you've went through. So that's why. So that's very empowering, very motivating.
Plus, the Valkyries return from the All-Star break without their only All-Star. How the team hopes to move forward from Kayla Thornton's season-ending injury. And there's a twist in the case of that stolen vintage Mercedes we told you about last night. How the burglary actually helped her find a buyer herself. The Golden State Valkyries are back from the All-Star break tonight, but the team got some tough news this morning. All-Star forward Kayla Thornton has been ruled out for the remainder of the season after injuring her knee at practice this week. The team says Thornton underwent successful surgery today and will soon begin rehab. Valkyries head coach Natalie Nicase spoke about what it means for the team losing their leader, as well as their mindset going into tonight's game against Dallas.
The shoot-around definitely wasn't the same without her. So what we're going to try to do tonight is come together and play our hearts out for her.
Thornton led the Valkyries in points and rebounds this season. Nicase says it will take a team-wide effort to replace what she brings on the court. All right, meantime, tens of thousands of runners are going to be hitting the pavement this weekend for the 2025 San Francisco Marathon. So there you go. That's the course. The marathon starts at the Embarcadero, then heads through Fisherman's Wharf and the Presidio across the Golden Gate Bridge and back. Then it goes through Golden Gate Park before it eventually finds its way back to the ferry building, 26.2 miles in all. All right, and there are other events as well, from the full marathon down to a family-friendly 1K. That sounds nice. Our Kevin Coe spoke with runners who couldn't wait to pick up their race gear today.
Race weekend is finally here. The SF Marathon kicks off here today at the Big Expo, where a lot of people are already picking up their shirts, their timing chips, bibs, and a lot more. Speaking of a lot more, SF Marathon organizers tell us this will be their biggest marathon ever, with about 33,000 participants already signed up. Many of those tens of thousands making their way here into the Health and Fitness Expo at the Fort Mason Festival Pavilion. It's filled with different booths featuring giveaways, activities, and a lot of information. This kicks off the marathon weekend with races starting tomorrow. You know, with tens of thousands of people descending onto San Francisco, you can expect a lot more traffic. Of course, those road closures due to the marathon itself, but a whole lot of foot traffic and a whole lot of business for the local economy. Organizers say of the 33,000 registered so far, about 80% are from the Bay Area. The other 20% from out of town.
All of the hotels here on the Embarcadero are sold out for Saturday night. And, you know, our race is still, it's a local event, but even local folks are partaking in like restaurants and the hotels and whatever else, right? Uber, Waymo.
When it comes to the runners, the San Francisco Marathon is kind of like an oasis during a desert-like time of the year. Abrahamson says hot summer weather nationwide prevents other major cities from holding metro-wide marathons, unlike San Francisco. Runners we talked to are ready to go, including Donovan, who was the first one in line for the expo, nearly an hour early to get his race weekend started. Why get here this early?
I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of that person that wants to be there really early to experience everything, and then also to change my corral because I want to make sure I'm running with my friends.
You'll see the culture, you see the differences in each neighborhood that you've went through. So that's why. So that's very empowering, very motivating.
I've never really been ran over the bridge. Like that's I'm excited for like the experience.
Get out there, hammer it down, get that full marathon, the half marathon, the second marathon, your 5K, 10K. You know, enjoy it, enjoy this weekend because it's all about you and take care of you.
Race director Lori Abrahamson also says there have been extra precautions put in place to ensure there are no distance issues this year. Last year, some runners were surprised to find out that their half marathon was a half mile short. Organizers say they are making sure that doesn't happen this year.
Okay, so the marathon's certainly going to have a big impact on traffic this weekend. Streets near the course start closing at 9 p.m. tomorrow, though most will go in effect midnight Sunday. The Golden Gate Bridge will be open for drivers, even though it's part of the course. The race will also impact some of those muni routes you take. And if you are running in the race, BART is offering shuttles from a handful of stations since the marathon starts before regular train service. Good luck. All right, a traffic alert in Fremont. Caltrans is closing part of southbound 680 starting at 10 o'clock tonight, and that goes through the weekend. So crews will be working on a bridge on 680 at the Mission or 238 overpass. So traffic will then be detoured toward the 680 on-ramp. The work is scheduled to be finished by 5 a.m. Monday. A similar closure will happen on the northbound side 2 weeks from now. That's the weekend of August 8th. All right, this is a good one. This evening, a twist in the story of a vintage car that was stolen and about to be shipped off overseas. The rightful owner making a surprise decision. So here we go. We first told you about this last night. Karen Chin's uncle was the owner of the 1970 Mercedes-Benz 280 SL. It was stolen in November. Police recently recovered the car at a shipping facility in Richmond. It was hours away from being sent to a buyer in the Netherlands. Chin says burglars broke into her uncle's house last fall to get the car.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to ever come back. We just thought it was gone. So it was just kind of, it's an interesting story that, you know, we recovered it.
So police identified and arrested the two suspects. Chin was reunited with their family heirloom last week, but that is when she decided to sell it to the same vintage car collector in the Netherlands. Get it?
I sold it again to the person who was duped. The vintage car dealer rebought it from me, and then we sold it.
All right, so basically the car stealers were a good broker. Chin is still looking for the car's license plate spelling, rickshaw. It was the name of her late uncle's nightclub. Fully restored, the Mercedes would be worth a couple $100,000. Wow. Right?
All right, picking up the forecast. Sure, it's one thing to see the marine layer. That's nothing new. Look what's going on the radar right now. See all that lightning there going across the northern third of the state? That escalated quickly. There are fire weather watches up there. In fact, red flag warnings because of that. How long is that going to go on? Could we possibly even see any of that here? And what about these temperatures? There is a warm-up coming. By Sunday into next week, we'll see how high we're going to go. Coming up in the forecast after the break.
All right, to our all-important forecast where my pants match the graphics. Apparently, this is what, a pink flag warning?
Well,
or this is actually a red flag warning, right?
Technically, it does appear pink.
It does a little bit, yeah.
But you're right, it is it's a red flag warning.
Okay.
We haven't talked about that a lot.
No, we haven't.
Haven't had to deal with it much.
Maybe that's why you add a little shade of pink to it.
Lighten the mood on it a little bit.
Thank you.
But that makes sense when you take a look at what is happening way on that far northern part of the state. Look at the satellite. All of a sudden, this big explosion of thunderstorms showing up there. And when we look underneath that, there's a lot of lightning. We started this yesterday. There was a lot of lightning yesterday, and right now we're kind of at the peak of this. And by tomorrow, it's not going to look like that. We are going to get a break, and I'll show you why. But there are some fire weather concerns on that far northern side of the state. Thankfully, there's rain with that. There's a good amount of rain coming down with us, but there's so much lightning. And that landscape is so dry up there already that doubtless we're going to have probably some minor issues up there. We'll see how it pans out over the next 24 hours. We'll have a better handle on it. Let's put a little context on this. How'd that happen? How did we just seemingly out of nowhere get this big complex of thunderstorms showing up across the far northern part of the state like that? We've been tracking the feature for that over the past couple of days. Watch what happens if we look at this a little differently. By the way, there go the storms today. And here's the good news for tomorrow, because watch what happens when they come back tomorrow. You're going to notice something. They're going to shift over towards the east. That's part of this pattern I want you to see. All those storms are going east, just like the point source responsible for them, which has been that counterclockwise spin over the state. We were looking at this together for the last 2 days. It's now migrated a little more, so it's kind of right over the northern part of the state, but it had been out here. This is what's been responsible for keeping us relatively cool and deepening the marine layer here at home. That's the Bay Area's impact of this. But when you get these little counterclockwise areas of low pressure, it's always that northeast corner where you get the best dynamics, the most energy, the most potential for thunderstorms. It just has to do with the way, if you start flowing air towards the north in that quadrant of a counterclockwise spin, you get better thunderstorms. That's always where the problems are. Now, here's why it's going to leave. Watch the counterclockwise spin and the futurecast. All that energy kind of gets pushed off towards the east, and we're going to get a little bit of a break. So that will clear out that aspect of it. If you want to see what the impact here at home is, we can factor in what we've also been talking about for much of the last several days, how cold the water is off of our coast. And when you start taking a look off the coast here, and you can see the sea surface temperatures and how dramatically shaded they are, those are water temperatures in the upper 40s. And that's what's been keeping the temperatures here for June and July below average. That part of this forecast is not changing. So we're not going to say goodbye to the helpful influence of cool water off our coast that wants to keep our temperatures below average. What is changing is the fact that we're going to see that area of low pressure finally leave. We're going to say goodbye to that. And as that leaves, the marine layer is going to stop getting so far inland. It's going to have to weaken a little bit. And we actually will see the temperatures warm up a little, but they're not going to even be able to go all the way back to average because we're still under the influence of that big pool of cool water off the coast. But we are going to remove that area of low pressure. All of that begins on Sunday. So tomorrow on Saturday, there is no difference. Saturday is just like today. The temperatures are going to be identical. It's about 10 degrees below average for those warmer inland parts of the bay. You're going to wake up to the marine layer. It's going to be no sky July for everybody. And then by the late morning, early afternoon, those clouds are going to dissolve away, and we'll be done with that. And then we get to Sunday, and you'll see how the temperatures start going up a bit. So let's start out by looking at our inland microclimate first. And what you see on there is Sunday's numbers go up maybe a couple of degrees, but you really notice it by Monday. Now, that might sound like a pretty big warm-up. You're going from the mid-70s to the mid-80s. That's a 10-degree jump. You'll notice it, but it's not like it's going to be hot. You should be 88 for an average. And the very definition of an average means you should be getting well above it, at least occasionally. We haven't been doing that. We're not even getting average, but you are going to warm up. And so that will happen by the time we get to Monday, and then we'll pretty much stay there. Most of next week will either be right at or maybe just a few degrees below average. So it'll be warmer next week than what you had. The marine layer probably won't be getting as far inland as it has been because that area of low pressure is going away. But in the bay, I don't think you're going to notice any difference. In the bay, you're still going to be living with the marine layer each morning in temperatures that'll struggle to make it into the upper 60s and low 70s. See you with more on this coming up at 7 o'clock. Juliet, back to you.
See you then. All right, Darren, thank you. When we come back, we're going to meet some bright young Bay Area science students presenting some impressive research at Berkeley Lab. Also, here's a look at what's ahead on the CBS Evening News.
60% of our drinking water comes from rivers, lakes, and streams. Now, salt water creeping up some rivers poses a threat to the water we drink. I'm David Schechter, and that story's coming up.
All right, talk about impressive. These students presented their research on topics ranging from quantum computer simulators to bioscience language models. And get this, they're only in high school. Yeah, the presentations, thank you, today at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab showcase the next generation of scientists. Reed Thompson is just one of the many students that is participating in the program. Her group focused on finding a way to detect Alzheimer's disease early.
And we're hoping that by setting up a Berkeley lab, we could do it at a much wider scale than a lot of these studies, if we can prove that we can do it as well as they can.
Absolutely. CBS Evening News is next. We'll see you in 30 minutes with more local news at 7 o'clock.